Hey, welcome back to my channel. As promised, this is not going to be mortgage related. This is just me related. I am technically working right now, but I wanted to drop in because it's been over a month. I think time just goes so fast. Even in this COVID-19 pandemic, it just feels like time is just moving exceptionally fast. And let me just say for the record, if I knew in 2019 what 2020 and 2021 was going to be like, I would not have curved so many guys. Probably would have picked the best out of the bunch instead of ending up with who I did end up with at the end of it. I don't think I've ever told you guys how to correctly pronounce my name. It is Jihan. I have a girlfriend whose name is Arabic as well. And to me, it's funny because people always butcher her name. This is what she tells me. They butcher her name and she just goes by what they've continued to call her, which is a common name, Tina. And I'm like, you don't look like a Tina. You don't talk like a Tina. You just don't remind me of a Tina. Like, why would you go with that name if that's not your name? But that's sis's business. My business is this. You can't pronounce my name. You call me by another name and I correct you and you continuously try to change my name to being something else. I'm not responding at all. My name actually means universe. And I think it's pretty dope. I am also a Leo. I have very strong opinions. As I've been told, I have a very strong personality. Not surprised by it because I've always had a take it or leave it type of attitude, even with those that I've really cared for. And I also have a tendency to leave the door open for all my relationships with people who come in and out because that's just growing pains of life. People come in and out your life. It takes extreme hurt for me to completely shut someone out and cut someone off. Like, I'm not usually the initiator for cutting people off, but if you give me good reason, I definitely will lay that sword down, like whoosh. And just never check in. I don't wish anything on you. Don't wish you good, don't wish you bad. I don't wish anything. I spent some time these past few days in Atlanta.
Today we are out in the garden, me and my niece. She's being shy. Say hi, London.
Totally missed her. I lived in Atlanta for 10 long years. And how I got to where I am is an interesting story. So in those 10 years, I completed college. I got a regular job. I pursued an acting career. I auditioned for, I think it was 2 reality shows, probably ones that you all, if you're a younger demographic, don't even relate to. It was The Real World. I was so stoked to go to my round 3 casting with The Real World, and they never picked me. I was like, okay, maybe I'm not dramatic enough. I lived so many lives in those 10 years, it feels like, but the dominant one, the life-changing one that got me to where I'm at today was the marriage life. I was married, I got divorced, and then after my divorce, I decided to relocate back to Virginia. So I grew up in Virginia Beach, although I am a Bronx native. I grew up in Virginia Beach, Virginia for the most part because I spent all of my high school years there, my adolescence years there. And I wanted to be where it was familiar to me because it was such a change. I felt like going through that marriage and divorce, there were so many pieces of me that I had just lost. I had no interest in acting anymore. I had no type of interest in anything. I was kind of just like, okay, now my world shifted. What do I want? Like, what do I want to do? And I had gotten a temp job after I graduated college working for the Home Depot and their headquarters. And there were so many project and product managers. And I would see the salaries and I was like, oh, this is what I'm gonna do because this is a great salary. And it was so opposite of who I am because I'm not incentivized and I'm definitely not monetarily driven or materialistically driven for things. If I'm not in it with my whole heart, I just am not in it. And probably why I ended up going into the mortgage lending field because I did take a job in project management and I stuck with it for 3 years in Northern Virginia. And I must say, like, even though the numbers were coming in and they were clicking, it was the most tedious and stressful job, an unfulfilling job with an unfulfilling company that I worked for. And I was just in my head like, I'm not helping people. I'm not doing what my purpose is. So when I figured that part out about myself, I decided to focus on finding that. What can I do to fulfill that purpose? And it led me to another place. So I'm in my 30s, and I think it's funny, like when I was in my 20s, I felt more certain about who I was and what I was going to do than I have ever felt in my 30s. And that's something very vulnerable to say and put on camera for the world to know, because the internet's going to know. But the truth is, all throughout life, you're going to continuously and hopefully evolve. And you're going to continuously and hopefully always be transitioning for the better. And that's what I think that has happened with me, like honestly and truly. And if it wasn't for those pivotal moments in Atlanta, it probably would have never happened. It definitely wasn't going to happen for me in Virginia Beach, because in Virginia Beach, I felt no kind of connection there. There was no growth other than, here are your options. You can join the military because it's a big Navy town, or you can go to college. And I wasn't in a position to go to college. I had never focused on school and my grades and what it is, because no one ever explained, not my guidance counselors, who all were horrible, not my professors, teachers, parents, no, besides them drilling in me, you got to go to school. No one explained why. Like, what's the purpose of all of this? And still to this day, it's like, what is the purpose of the getting up super early, stressing yourself out, cramming to get food in your mouth, and you're not really hungry at 7 a.m. Well, I'm not really hungry at 7 a.m. to rush to a job, to rush to school, to do something that you're really not interested in. Like, what is the purpose of the rat race? And it never clicked. So for me in Virginia Beach, at that pivotal point of, okay, you've graduated, now what's next? It was never like, okay, I got to do these, one of the two options. No, I went back to New York. I wanted to see what my life would have been like, or could be like now as a adult teen, because I was 17. What could my life be like in the city versus how I grew up in suburbia, beach town, racist Virginia Beach? I need a change of scenery. I need to be exposed to different things so I can achieve what it is that I want to do. And I was too nervous to tell any one of my parents, like, what I really wanted to do is just to pursue acting full time, but on your dime, because I need a place to stay. And sometimes I'm going to need you to pay my cell phone bill, because that was like my major bill at that point. And so I went there to New York. I don't even think that my dad had let me stay with him for more than a month. I pretty much bounced around between my aunt and my grandmom. And I say all this to wrap it all around to how I got to Georgia. Eventually, I went down to Virginia to go visit my mom, and I wound up getting a speeding ticket, not just a regular speeding ticket, but a reckless one. And when I got that ticket, I had to go back to Virginia because you have a court date. If you miss your court date, you could go to jail. And the law is still like that. Tim Kaine, you should update that if you're listening. And I wound up leaving New York City for good again and working to pay off that high fine that I was going to have to pay in New Kent, Virginia. And then shortly after that, I left to go stay with my sister in Maryland. I went back to Virginia because my grandmother passed away, packed up her house, got her cremated. And my mom had moved to Georgia at that point and said, hey, why don't you just move to Georgia, where I'm at? And I said, that doesn't sound like a bad idea. There's nothing going on in Maryland. And so I packed up my stuff and went on down to Georgia. And shortly afterwards, in that transition of stage, I had applied for a flight attending job, but I hadn't heard back from them yet. So I went ahead and went to Georgia. And I didn't even get to stay in Georgia for more than 2 months before I got hired with an airline, and I was a flight attendant, serving people and feeling enclosed where I can't even move around in case you're annoying me. I can't pass you off to someone else. And it was just really scary. Like, there were so many precautions that were in place in an event that 9/11 were to happen again on that flight. So it was very high adrenaline, high anxiety with the job. And I wanted to figure out, okay, well, what can I do? Worst case, best case scenario if this doesn't work out. And so I spoke to my base manager, and she had told me, well, if you don't want to do 10 years to become a base manager, then you should just go back to school. Very horrible, racist woman. But what she said was true. I should go back to school. But back to school for me at that point in my 20s now, I was like, can't go back to high school, but I'll try college. And I did do theater initially and got the scariest info, and I won't even say who told me it, of what my options would be after graduating, to either be a teacher or going back to New York City, trying to go on off-Broadway and doing theater, but never making enough to like live on my own, sustain myself. So I did not want to do that as an adult. It was just like not in the question. So after 2 years, I had changed my major, and I still was pursuing acting, but I wasn't pursuing it as a major, and fell into international affairs. And that's what I graduated with. And lo and behold, after graduating, in comes my now ex-husband. And that's the story of Georgia leaving and coming up here and finding purpose. Like that is it in a nutshell. And up until this point, I don't really have a huge regret in my life. I feel like every person served a reason and a season for me. I liked my seasonal friends better than my reason friends, don't we all? And I also enjoy my solitude being up here in Virginia, not in the same area that I grew up in per se, but maybe one day soon I'll get back down there. Just looking forward to continuing this evolution journey, because that's all life is a ride. So hope we can do a Q&A in the future with more of you, get to know you more than you get to know me. But that's a little snippet of my personal delight. Hope everyone is doing well and you take care of yourselves like you do others.